He creates securities through a debt for equity swap. So I think one of the opportunities for financially sophisticated people is to take a look at where the equity opportunities are within local places and where you can get the political traction you need to really get the small business and the local leadership together. There are tremendous opportunities to re-engineer this, because whenever you have an economy that is this unproductive and this negative, if and where you can turn it around, the capital gains opportunities are absolutely enormous.
You know, I remember there's this story about our now Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is one thing I think he did in his early days to create wealth, as he went down, it was either Santa Monica or Malibu or someplace, but he took these old dilapidated buildings, rebuilt them, and revitalized the whole area. So maybe this is a grassroots movement that begins at this kind of level, Catherine, because certainly large corporations today are outsourcing our jobs, and it's really the small businessman who's local that is the creator of jobs, a large corporation.
Absolutely. But right now, if you come to Rotary International in Bolivar, right now the local small business guys are playing with multiples of 1 to 5 times, and they're getting clocked by the large corporations because they can finance at multiples of 20 and 30 times. And what I'm saying is, if the local consumer goes to Walmart, they're not a shareholder. They don't get equity upside on the equity they create with their purchases. If the small business guys get together, form a Solari, finance, so that local consumers can buy equity, but global investors can buy equity, then you start to build alignment between local and global, and you start to capture that capital gains opportunity by securitizing all this small business income in a way that creates the equity need to pay off this debt. And let me give you an example. In June, Jim, we're about to launch an open source prototype. It's free, it's open source, called Solari Circle Investor Clubs. Now, obviously, you know what an investment club is. A Solari Circle Investor Club is just like a traditional investment club, except all the investments are local. It's a way of getting people together and starting to look at the opportunities. For example, I've never been to a community in America where I don't find people getting 2%, 1 or 2% on their CDs at the bank. Meantime, their neighbor is paying 18% to a credit card company or the IRS. Well, I have news for you. That's an opportunity. So the idea of a Solari Circle Investor Club is to get together and say, wait a minute, how can we refinance all of our neighbors who've got debt problems in a way that significantly improves our investment yield? Those arbitrages are all there, but it means thinking a little bit outside the box and having to look in a world of privatization. How does the government money work in our place? And how does the private money work in our place? And how can we build a new constituency between the consumers and the small business in our place, where consumers can be shareholders backing the small business in a way that makes us all money?
What has been the reception to this so far?
Well, so far, the reception has been tremendous, except from the Department of Justice and the black budget guys. We were prototyping 100 of these in 1998, Jim, and part of it was we had a software tool called Community Wizard where you could dial in, say if you lived in San Diego, you could dial into Community Wizard and start to download all the data about how the money worked in San Diego. And what we didn't realize at the time, because we were just naive, was that was illuminating a lot of the black budget fraud that was in the federal mortgage portfolios. I mean, for example, when I was assistant secretary, I'd get these inventories that said, we had 10 buildings on this block, and I'd go fly there, and I'd go drive by the block, and there'd be no 10 buildings there. And so the problem was when Community Wizard would illuminate, sort of the databases on what the federal government was doing in the mortgage business, and citizens in their community could get those numbers and police them and see the money contiguous to the world where they walked around and drove around. The discrepancies, the lies came to the fore. So we kind of stepped in. And anyway, so what we've been doing for the last 5 years is to work through those issues. And now wherever I go, I get tremendous and very positive response. And I think the key has been to get those people who are not financially literate, not financially sophisticated, organized in a way that they understand why their political and economic future depends on supporting their local small business. And so we've been trying to create real unifying bridges between sort of small business and lots of non-sophisticated sort of citizens, consumers, activists, and small investors. And I think what's been happening as this sort of bubble economy gets more and more crazy, we're finding very, very positive reception in our audiences. But again, we're going to launch next month, and it's going to be totally on an open source prototype basis. And we'll start marketing this summer. And so, with all these things, I think you have to go into the marketplace and see. But I'm guardedly optimistic. I think there's a real market for this. Because think about it, you've got $500 billion plus of small business income trading at a 1 to 5 multiple, and frankly, not everybody wants to shop at Walmart. So that's a huge opportunity for the rest of us if we can bring liquidity to that market. And as we do, that's an infrastructure that can create a lot of new jobs, a lot of new opportunity. So I kind of see that play as being where the opportunity is. I think, these guys are all centralizing, but, I'm a great believer that centralization is really nowhere near as productive as decentralization. So if the rest of us as investors can identify the opportunity and get the right yields, it's all about price. I think that's where the opportunity is going to be. And if anybody's interested, I would encourage them to read more at our website, www.solari.com, and sign up for the Solari Action Network forum. And so as we launch these different products, they'll receive our mailings.
Catherine, getting back to the other economy that's out there now, the credit bubble, the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all of this credit financing, what's your view in terms of how this ends? I can't help but see this whole thing crumbling, and maybe perhaps it's a private initiative that rises from the ashes, such as the things that you're proposing, that rebuild this economy, because certainly we have hollowed out this country in terms of what we've done to manufacturing.
Right.
And you can't create wealth by just printing money and borrowing money.
Right. I think there are two scenarios. One is the bust, which is this thing keeps going as long as it can be financed through the U.S. governmental apparatus, and at some point, as the Japanese and everyone else say, we're not buying any more of this, we're not going to finance it, we're not taking more dollars, the thing busts. And when it busts, what you're going to have is, it's going to be 1929, but worse. Because in 1929, there was a lot of social capital in America. It was a much kinder, gentler place, I think, than it is now. And you had many more people who knew how to, grow their own food or functions. So one scenario is the bust. The other scenario, though, Jim, is the Orwellian scenario, which is we've reached a point, and I've written many articles about this, where rather than let financial assets adjust, the powers that be now have the control of the economy through the banking system and through the governmental apparatus. They can simply steal more money, keep financial assets, whether it's the stock market pumped up, the derivatives going, or gold price manipulated down, and they simply liquidate all living things rather than let the economy go bust. In other words, you can adjust to your economy not by letting the value of the stock market or financial assets fall, but you can use warfare and organized crime to liquidate and steal whatever it is you need to keep the game going. And that's the kind of Orwellian scenario whereby you can basically keep this thing going, but in a way that leads to a highly totalitarian government and economy, kind of sort of corporate feudalism.
It almost sounds like we're heading in that direction in some sense in terms of the words that they use, the way the statistics are manipulated, seasonally adjusted. I love those words, but you have whatever that means, seasonally adjusted. Does that mean they're going to make the weather go away? I mean, we'll just have sunshine every day. But when you take labor numbers where you have 7,000 or 8,000 actual jobs created, and I call them hypothetical jobs. We turn them into 300,000 jobs. Or you have inflation statistics that take everything that goes up and then adjust it for